Hello, good afternoon. I've come to Dunkery and Orner Wood National Nature Reserve, and in traditional fashion, I don't have a clue where I'm supposed to be or where I should go. I just drove here because I thought I'll just figure it out when I get there. Classic. So I've just come up to the I guess the beacon, I think they call it, which is like, I guess, a hill that has a view, and I'm just going to kind of see what I can see and make a plan about where to go. It was a bit of a misty day earlier, and I was kind of hoping for like that misty woodland kind of vibe, but I think that it's ended up just being a bit windy instead. But anyway, I'll go and have a see. Maybe I can find some rivers, some old trees, that sort of thing. Have a look. Okay, so that's what I'm after. There's like a big bank of woodland in between where I am and the sea, so I think that's probably where I need to go. I think I'm going to head back to the car and just figure out where I'm supposed to go. I really should have learned my lesson by now, shouldn't I? So I found a car park and I'm on a walk. It's just a short 1 hour loop walk through the woods, around the hills, all that sort of stuff. It's quite challenging, you know. The weather is a bit bland. The scenery is a bit overwhelming. I think it's going to be harder before I get into the woods, because I know woods well. I can do woods, but heath, not so much. Not good at heath. Alright, so I think I have my first image lined up. There's a sort of a tree. I don't know what type, maybe a birch tree. The bark is silver, and it's kind of curved over in the along the hill with the valley in the background, and I think it might make quite a nice image. I'm not entirely sure about the composition yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to have the tree in the centre or if I'm going to have it offset and have some of the heath bushes, those thistles or whatever they're called, in the foreground. What these conditions are suffering from is that all of this cloud cover is acting like a giant softbox, and it's just diffusing all the light, which means that it's just not that interesting actually. I can imagine that if the sun was rising and casting nice orange glows across the landscape, it might be quite a nice image, quite a striking image, but it's not grabbing me. I don't know. I'm going to move on from this one. I'll process it, we'll see what it looks like. But hey, I'm going to try. So far I haven't really seen anything that has caught my eye with regards to taking a photograph, but it's just a beautiful place. Like, this woodland is clearly like centuries old. All these trees are huge and gnarled and twisted and covered in moss. It feels very sort of like ancient. Birds tweeting, wind blowing. It's really peaceful, really tranquil. I guess what I'm looking for is for something to stand out to me, something that has some contrast or some colour or some shape. And it's actually quite overwhelming. There is a lot to look at, but it's very nice. It's a very, very nice place nonetheless. Someone was kind enough to pop a bench here for me. Isn't that nice? So I think I've got my my next shot. I was thinking that this woodland might have been a blowout actually, because I just kind of wandered through it. There's a beautiful river and there's just nothing that really grabbed me, but I've got an image. So I'm sat on one side of the valley, and on the other side of the valley it's just trees all the way up. Huge trees. They look stunning, but the bottom is a dead tree, and I think that might make for quite a nice composition, framing the dead tree right at the bottom of the frame and then filling up the entirety of the rest of the frame with all of these other sort of luscious green trees. I think that would make for quite a nice image. I'm going to rest my legs for a second. Quite pleased with that image actually. I think it's going to turn out quite nicely. By now you've already seen it. You know more than me, kind of. I guess that's kind of like time traveling, isn't it? Because that's an image that I took in the past. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but what am I going on about? I think I might have taken a wrong turn. I know, uncharacteristic, but I need to be over there and I'm currently here. Okay, I'm back on track. It's a good thing that I went the wrong way, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have got that picture of that tree. So, you know, sometimes these things happen for a reason. But the mistake I made was, on the map, it very clearly says Ford. And I just ignored that. I was like, nah, that's probably not correct. This Ordnance Survey map is probably inaccurate. Muppet. Anyway, back on track. Follow the river, back to the car. So just walking past this river, I was hoping to get a nice moody river shot, and I think I might get one actually. Right here, there's a couple of rocks in the foreground, and the river cuts through, and then we have this big, thick green bank filled with rocks and ferns and tree trunks. So I think there's a composition to be had here. But once I've got one sorted, I will show you. Okay, so the idea is, there's a little rock in the foreground, and then there's some ferns in the background, and you're led from one point to the next using the river. So it's going to be a long exposure. I think this is going to turn out to be quite a nice image. Bring out certain aspects, play with the colour a bit. I think it'll be quite an atmospheric image. Turns out to have been a successful trip after all. We've hit the jackpot. Another waterfall. This one even better than the last. I love a waterfall. So dynamic. It just adds a little bit of interest into the frame, no matter what it is. It could be the world's worst waterfall, but that moving water, playing with long exposures, is so much fun. So this one, I'm going to frame the waterfall in the bottom of the frame, because there are actually some quite nice trees in the top, and I think that the image may benefit from that negative space at the top, because the bottom is quite busy, but we'll see. Nonetheless, it's fun. I love shooting waterfalls, even if every single one is rubbish. So similarly to the last waterfall picture, similar settings, this time 70mm, f11, ISO 100 and a shutter speed of 1 second. Good waterfall. So it turns out that the end of the walk was actually the best bit. I honestly thought that it was going to be a complete washout. Like, you know, when I was walking across that heath and there was just nothing, I was thinking, oh man, have I really driven like 3 hours for nothing? But no, the answer is no.